right, welcome to Breaking Kayfabe. I'm your host, the Sauce Boss, and I'm sitting here today with a very special guest on the show, the handler of Mr. Chris Page. Chris, how you doing this afternoon?
I'm all right. It's a different scenario to be on the opposite side of the microphone and not in the host seat, in the guest seat. So we'll see how I do.
Right, so I'll try to keep you on the tracks here. But I really just want to get into what you have going on these days, what you're looking forward to, who you're working with, and what's coming up for Chris Page. So let's just jump right into it and just talk about what's the biggest thing that you have on your board right now.
Well, it'd be remiss to backtrack just a little bit. The entity closed down. They had their last show. I got to work with Tony Savage, which was really fun.
Yeah.
Such a great guy. Great writer. I squeaked out a win there and was able to pick up the world championship. So that's number 19. I've got number 20, possibly 21 in my sights. I feel that the DPI was a huge success. I got to do a program with Griffin Hawkins, which we've been talking about for months. To finally get the match done and out of the way was really fun. And again, just an overall great guy. And I think currently I've got Pro Wrestling Apex, the Nick Powell Memorial Battle Royals coming up here in the next week or so. I'm going to take part in that. I've got a big match with Peter Vaughn on deck next weekend in TPW for the International Championship. And of course, all eyes for me are also headed towards Ravenstock, where Sebastian Everett Bryce is waiting in the wings. So, needless to say, 2023 has started off and has continued on a huge upward trajectory for me as a character.
So let me stop you for a minute there. And for somebody who has never had a shot at a world title before and has a hard time getting to those secondary titles, How does that happen? How do you get booked for these big matches? Is it something where you approach somebody? Do they come to you? Is it a mix of both? I think people would love to hear about how that develops and how you always end up in that position.
Over the last 2 years, I haven't approached anybody for a belt shot. I feel like those are earned, and if you earn it, they're going to come to you and say, hey, we have this in mind for you. With the entity, Joe Montori and I were rocking the tag straps. Their tag division wasn't really there wasn't a whole lot of teams there. I'll just put it that way. And he wanted to get rid of the division, and he asked me if I get rid of the tag titles and give you a shot at the world belt, is that okay? And I was, yeah, that's fine. So ultimately, they came to me. Same can be said for Sin City. I'm doing some stuff over there too. They've been trying to get me in the world title mix for the last 6 or 7 weeks, but I've turned it down because I don't feel like my character's earned it. Like I'll win a couple of matches or a couple people will no-show, but then I'll lose one. And to me, in character, that takes all the fire out of the sails, or the winds out of the sails, as they say, because my character hasn't earned it. Page hasn't earned it. He just got beat. So I out of it. With TPW, I went to them because the Fed just relaunched. I had recently relaunched the WGWF months prior. Knew how kind of difficult it is to get contenders in line pretty quick, and with the reputation that Page has, the fact that he's in on CCPE and Peter Vaughn is in CCPE, like it was an interesting dynamic, and it like I told him, this will allow you to get your roster together and get contenders lined up for the future, because that's the big thing, and takes the pressure off of you to figure, you the Fed head, to figure out who you're going to put in the ring with Vaughn. Let's be fair, Vaughn's a difficult task. You should know.
Well, I wasn't going to mention it, but Vaughn is very talented, right? So I think he's held a world title for maybe 12 of the last 16 months, something like that.
Easily.
And he's done it everywhere. So it's it's a testament to just how good he is at what he does, and it certainly helps that he's easy to work with and he's a nice guy because he's going to get more opportunities because of it. So, I don't know who to pick in that matchup because both of you guys had a little bit of trouble at the DPI, which was shocking to me because you guys.
How do you think I feel having to be the tiebreaker in that match? How do you think I felt? I was the tie-breaking judge in Strader Vaughn.
Well, you should feel proud that you did the right thing. You were able to see past your own biases and say, the right thing to do is to pick this winner. That says
it threw Porter off. I think it threw Porter off.
Sure.
And truth be told, like I told Denzel, anytime I look at a piece, I read them both individually and then I put them side by side. I want to get the context. I want to see where you're trying to go, but then I want to look at them side by side on separate monitors, and I want to see the overall form of each piece individually and then collectively. And in this case, I really felt like Strader brought her shit, or Dre brought his shit. Vaughn, is not to say that it wasn't superb Vaughn writing, but Strader, I felt like took advantage of the situation, and by that's not a negative knock, but by what I mean by that is used the DPI to roll out a new story. There was no having to play catch up. Like, this was brand new. It was a new arc, and it picked up. And she, the handler Dre did tremendous with both pieces. So, it was not the easiest decision to make. But I hope that shows that when it comes to judging, I kind of have a good eye for what I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's actually a nice segue here into what you're doing over at the World's Greatest Wrestling Federation, the WGWF. How long's it been open now? It's been, are we at 6 months yet?
Probably past that. We opened up, relaunched the end of September. We're full steam ahead to Wrestle Wars at the end of the month. Great guys and girls on the roster. I mean, as a Fed head, I couldn't ask for anything more. They stay out of the drama. They stay out of the bullshit. They stay out of the nonsense and have fun. Because ultimately, that's why I relaunched the Fed. Is at one point in time, the game used to be fun. So can we go back to that? Can we do that? Yeah, we can, and that's what we're doing in the WGWF. You talked about Peter Vaughn. He's currently the world's champion, and he's got a hell of a match with Mark Cross coming up at Wrestle Wars, and I feel like that is going to be arguably, us role play wise, is going to be one for everybody to enjoy. I think Cross does incredible character development work, and I think that Vaughn is just fucking hilarious. And in the same token, I mean, Mark Flynn's on the roster. He's a Universal Champion in the XWF. Buster's on the roster. He's got a shot at Cholo, who's also Xavier Lux, for the IC strap. The Ramseys are involved. Atara Raven, Fred Debonair, J-Mont, Piedmont. The list really goes on and on. Zyra Ivory, Ace Sky. I know that I'm probably missing several people, but and that's not by that's not on purpose. It's just I don't have the roster pulled up in front of me right now. But I'm saying that to say is there's tremendous writers, and ultimately that's where it's at. And the stories that they're telling are very fun and entertaining. Sonya Benson and Punisher, those are two off rip. I've heard bad things about the Sonya character for years, and yet I haven't seen any of that activity. On my roster, she's a hell of a heel and a tremendous fucking writer and storyteller.
So for the folks who aren't familiar with the Fed and how it operates, could you share a little bit about what your role is over there? Because it may be a little surprising to some folks. From the outside, what they see is a ton of CCPE guys in-house, but you're not the only guy over there. You're not running the entire show all by yourself. There are other people involved. So would you mind getting into that a little bit?
Sure. It's no secret that James Raven and I work on this project together. He's been wanting to dive in and work on something for a while. This was an opportunity. We worked great together. We discuss every match, every role play. And since we've relaunched, we've disagreed twice. And both times we've disagreed, I've went in his favor with it because he had good reasons. And I understand. Oh, look, CC is a fed for these guys. No, it's not really because CCPE guys are taking on CCPE guys. What the fuck are you talking about? And that's kind of where I'm at with that. Is there an abundance of guys there? I think we have 6, 7 that are within CCPE. The Saga is another faction of talent that has put themselves together. We've got a couple of their members are in our ranks: Lexi Gold, Buster, Mark Cross, and I mean, going off of rumor and innuendo, there's probably more coming that I don't know about, and that's okay too, because that's why we're here. We're here to have fun. We're here to tell stories. This is not the in character Chris Page. Like, this is, you're talking to Travis, and this is where we're at. That's as a Fed. I don't think you can ask for anything better than that. Raven and I write all the results. We discuss all the storylines. We get with the handlers. He gets with handlers. I get with handlers. We create the stories. We let you have creative control. An example of that would be the Sonya Punisher angle. That whole story for the last 6 months has been on them. I've not contributed one thing other than I've contributed 2 things to that entire story, and that's just here recently. And it wasn't anything big into the actual collaboration that those 2 handlers are doing. Anybody who knows me knows that I love collab work. So seeing multiple people or people work together on a story to put the best product out there for both characters is really good to see.
So you've got Wrestle Wars 8 coming up in about 3 weeks. That's the big pay-per-view so far this year. I don't know that that's your Mania type event or if it's just the next one, more of like a King of the Ring type tournament.
It's definitely the Mania for the WGWF.
So that's the granddaddy of them all. So after that's over, right? You pretty much got that one booked. There's the go home show, and then you've got the pay-per-view. What are you looking forward to after that?
WGWF wise, or
yes,
in general game wise?
Yeah, no, inside as a Fed head.
Well, this is obviously a reset button, a reset hit, because we've got a lot of stories that are going to culminate here. So what I'm looking forward to is seeing where it goes next. I have ideas, but I'm not going to spoil them on the show. I have IC title ideas. I have world title ideas. I have tag title ideas. I've got all that lined up. So the titles are straight. Where the fun's going to come in is the other handlers and how they choose to pair up. Who pairs up with who to work a story. I'll make no bones about it. Like, I would love to see Atara and Sonya Benson tell a story with Sonya's character and the way that Sonya's played the character, and the fact that Atara is Atara Raven, James Raven's wife. I mean, to me, that has money written all over it, and I think that they could do some really good stuff together. I really want to build the undercard, to be perfectly honest, because the middle card and the upper card, main event scene, we're stacked. With the role play limits being 2K, 3K, 4K, it really puts it in anybody's wheelhouse, and it's anybody's ball game. And that's another beautiful thing about it, is the competitive nature that the roster has, and everybody can compete with everybody. Case in point, I'll use Bam Miller here. People know who Bam is, and they know the character. They've seen the work. Well, I dare you to go look at his work now. Tell me that his work hasn't improved. That's not because he hasn't been working with people. It's because he asked to figure out how to improve his writing, and people have offered to help him. Not just tell him what to do, but show him. And he sends in a role play. Go through the role play, and we make notes, and I'll rewrite it. It takes work, and he's put the work in, and his role plays are showing. the quality side by side. Put one up, from 2 or 3 weeks ago versus one from 6 months ago, and tell me where it showed me, because you'll see it. It's obvious.
So for pretty much any business, something that I've always been told is that you have to have three uniques about your business to make it competitive. So for your Fed, the WGWF, what would you say are the things that make you stand out from the other Feds? What are your unique characteristics?
A saucy take for you. You ready?
Oh, yeah, please.
I don't care about standing out from other people's products. I don't care about, what my product looks like versus someone else's. I only care about my product. If you notice, I don't do a whole lot of advertisement. Oster does. I don't. There's a reason for that. Because back in the day when I ran the Fed, even with Twitter being a thing, I didn't advertise. Word of mouth will do the advertisement for me. And ultimately, if somebody wants to come give the Fed a shot, they know how to find it. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not that guy. I don't have to go out and try to be different than other people. My product stands by itself.
Okay, well, let me rephrase the question. When you decided to get the WGWF back up and running again, and you had to think about, okay, what's our format going to be? How are we going to present this? What were the items that you and James Raven decided that were must-haves for the Fed?
Well, when it came to running it, that was simple. Like, we know that we are doing this together. So, first question that came up was, how many matches are we going to do per show? Are we going to write these matches out? Are they going to be summarized? Are they, what is a manageable level? I've used this analogy with many people who've talked to me about either opening a Fed or role play limits in a Fed, or writing matches specifically. Let's start there. What are you capable of handling? So what that means is James and I both agree that 5 matches at 15 to 2,000 words a pop is more than enough to tell the story that you're trying to tell within the match concept itself. For brawl programs, we're not talking pay-per-view. Those a whole different ballgame. But we also wanted to make it manageable. What can I handle if you're not here? I can handle 5 matches, no problem. He can handle 5 matches, no problem. And since we've relaunched, there's been one show that I took it all, and there's been a show that he took it all. So it goes hand in hand, and then we just alternate. This show I'm writing 3. Next show I write 2. This show I'm writing 3. Next show I write 2. So forth and so on. Making it manageable was the first thing, because what I've seen in other Feds over the last 20 some odd years is everybody wants to run it till you have to run it. They don't realize the work that it takes. It's so much more than just booking a card and saying have at it. There's writing the matches. There's the behind the scenes nonsense. Thankfully, we don't have any of that. But I've been in Feds and I've been a part of nonsense in Feds before. So, and in the previous incarnation, I can't say that we didn't have our share of nonsense. We did. But making sure that we're able to maintain it was the biggest draw. And then when it came to the role play, it was, what's the market dictate? What are the handlers wanting to do? And if most people are comfortable in that 2,000 to 4,000 word limit, which seems to be like 70% of the market, we probably need to cater to that. And those were the 3 little dynamics. The 2 dynamics was, what can we handle without you, and what do we need? Now, I knew coming in that I had 10 people that were ready to join the Fed. I had not put feelers out, but I had said something, hey, I'm really thinking about starting back up a Fed, because I get tired of seeing some of the nonsense that's out there. And I'd had yeah, I'll do it. Let me know. So when the decision came, I circled back around, and not only did everybody that committed prior they're still there now and having a good time. Ultimately, I think we're doing something right somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, from the outside looking in, what brought me into the Fed is you've got 5 matches every card. That's it. You get on the card, it's a big deal, right? And you have other mechanics. You have the structure set up to where people can still do things even if they don't make the main card, which makes every match mean a lot to anybody who's in them. The word counts are great, 2, 3, 4,000. A single role play every 2 weeks is manageable for people who maybe want to be in more than one federation or don't have the longevity to do unlimited word counts or 3,500. It's nice to have some options in the different divisions. And then the other thing that sets you apart, regardless of what people believe, is that it's relatively drama free. And that's not to say that inside the Discord and on the forum that everybody agrees, and because of that, there's no drama. It's the fact that controversial topics don't get brought up on inside the house. So those kind of things exist on Twitter. Twitter is a place to if you want to go to war with people, it's done in Twitter. But the house is kept clean. And that is that's probably the biggest that's the biggest compliment I think I can give the Fed right now, is that it feels clean and untainted, and everybody seems to be content with what they're doing. So it's been a pleasure for me to be a part of it, and I hope that you're enjoying it as well.
So far, running the Fed's fun. That's the easy part. The easy part's running it. I've seen the criticisms out there. I've seen the attacks on the product. Listen. What people fail to understand about me is that I understand that EFED is a hobby. It's not it's not something that I have to do. It's something that I want to do. And what you see on Twitter is not the man behind the keyboard. So if anybody chooses to think that that's the case, well, that's just a misguided interpretation, and they're entitled to it. I'm not going to go out of my way to correct anyone on anything anymore, and focus on what I choose to focus on. I think that the WGWF product is healthy. I think that it's really about to hit a blasting point. And reality is that's because of the handlers that are role playing and that are making the product, and it's nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with Raven. It's everything to do with those that just want to have a good time. So that's why we're here. We're here to have a good time, and that's hopefully the atmosphere that is presented and is taken in.
Well, you had mentioned that this is a hobby for you, and you recognize it as being a hobby. So you do your fair share of competitive role playing. You do your own FedHead responsibilities, and then in addition to that, you've got another hobby, which is the podcasting. Why don't you talk a little bit about what that has meant to you recently, and just how much of your time is spent on making content that isn't, specifically writing matches, role playing?
Well, it started 2 years ago with Bobby and TK on the XWF podcast. We had fun there for a year and a half, give or take, and the firesides became a thing, and those were fun. And then it just kind of evolved. I had an idea for weekly content in multiple programs, not just one, but multiple, just because I wanted something else to do. When you're as old as I am, and I'm 40 in real life, you're up at 4:30, or I am anyway, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. 3 hours to kill before I have to even think about going to work. And now that I'm not writing as much as I was, it just seemed like that was the next logical step. So bullshit shows are put together, and people listen to them or they don't. In the process, though, what I have found is that I've made a really good friend, and that's you. You kind of saw what we were doing, and we did the Ring Bell show. Fun fact: Sauce Boss is the co-host of Ring Bell Radio every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right here on the same network. But that came to fruition because we did a show together, and the chemistry was there. And not only that, like, you kind of see what I see, in the way of this. This could be a little bit bigger than what where we're at. Like, we've got a nice little thing set up and a nice thing going and a good little thing going. But what if? And we jumped into the over the top network, which, as it stands right now, we're dropping shows, I don't know, every day, it seems like, between your content and my content and content that John's going to be bringing to the table. It's fun, and it's interesting, and it's an adventure because we don't know what's going to happen, right? Like, if next week we could crash and fucking burn. Who knows? In the meantime, having a lot of fun doing it, and reality is that's what this is all about. It's about fun. Do we push some buttons every now and then? Yeah, sure, because ours get pushed frequently. Do we have fun with what we're doing and take some things lightly? Yeah, absolutely, because the world is already too much of a serious place for me to have to, or anyone else to have to worry about taking things super, super seriously in a fictitious game. But we have fun talking about it. And I feel like when we do, we put over whoever we're talking about in some form or fashion. Ultimately, too, that's what it's about. And the Firesides was putting over, handlers and their feds. That was the whole point. When my character blew up because of that, like, I went out on the road, went to feds, and that was why I did it. Is so, like, here, this is my way of saying thank you because that's the best that I can do for you. That's it. I feel like we're on the cusp of something that could be great in the long run. Your ideas and my ideas and John's ideas. We're partnering up with different people over the top. Right now, Fed-wise, we've got Thunder Lips with TPW is a show that is on the channel that we have nothing to do with, by the way. It just gets sent and we edit it and put it together. Brawl Talk with the WGWF is on the network. Sin City Wrestling is putting a podcast together. It's going to be coming to the network. Ring Bell is on the network. Fireside's on the network. This program, Breaking Kayfabe, on the network. Like, this is something that we are doing. It's not just a me thing. This is everyone involved putting time in to see what we can do. And I think we've made no bones about it that when it comes to the EFED side of the equation, to me, and this is not a disrespectful statement, but this is a trial run. Like, I've got my content on my page is not necessarily EFED related anymore. Behind the Curtain is a program that took off, and my platform audience, like, it has grown 3 times its original size in 2 weeks. Stuff like that. Like, you don't know if anything's going to hit unless you try it. If you're afraid to try it, it doesn't matter if it's podcasting, e-fedding, or life in general. If you're afraid to try and you're afraid to fail, then you'll never, ever be able to succeed.
Well, if I can chime in there, the whole point of this program with the Breaking Kayfabe is to invite people to share their story and talk about their projects, what they have coming up. This is, in a condensed format. Hopefully it's something that people can digest pretty easy, and it's not too much of a deep dive. Hopefully it does kind of check the boxes and resonate with people who listen to the show. So I want to make sure that people listen to the content and feel like they can do it just as good. They can do it too. Shows like yours and shows like the EFED podcast and the Danny Danger show, the John Cast, were the ones that inspired me to start making my own content. I hope that other people want to create some of their own content as well. They're spending
John Cast and John Cast and the EFED podcast paved the way for me.
Right.
John Cast started a couple of weeks before I started my thing. So, I mean, all that stuff came before me. And I hope that there's something that comes after me. Because, again, we're not going to do this forever.
Well, people are getting very tech savvy these days, and with AI being able to do some of the dirty work for you, I imagine that more and more people are going to start producing this kind of content, video content, podcasting content, graphic content, and I think it only helps us out. So if you're listening to the show, first off, thank you for listening this far in. Hit that little red subscribe button. I think about 2/3 of our audience is unsubscribed, so we would love to have you as a subscriber. We'd love to have you back to talk about some other content. And if you'd like to share your story, I'd love to have you on the show as well. Let's break kayfabe and talk about you as a handler, what you have going on. And it doesn't necessarily have to be related to e-fedding. It could be any creative projects that you have coming up. We've been talking quite a bit with the folks over at the BCNA about their simulated baseball federation, and I think it's great. It's a switch of gears, and it just helps clear the air a little bit to talk about something a little bit different. There is a lot of content here for us to talk about, but mixing it up with some real-world wrestling is really nice. Talking about pop culture is cool. We want to do some movie reviews and some top 10 lists and all sorts of fun little content for this little subculture that we have here. So Chris, thank you for being on the show. Thank you for making content, and I hope that it gives back to you, because I think a lot of people look at your content and hopefully they look at some of my content for inspiration in their writing, in their fedding, or whatnot, because that's really the goal here. So I think we should wrap it up here for today. But I'll leave you the floor. What else would you like to say to our audience?
I just want to plug one more program, and really and truly that's it. And that's the Cup of Tea with Sam and Travis. If you really, really want to get a look at who people are, then give that show a listen. That is Sam is obviously the handler of Todrick Tabar Ramsey. We were both born and raised in Alabama, and this is just kind of our story growing up. We're both gay men in real life. I'm obviously white. He is black, so we grew up different, right? But we're both 40 years old, so it's two different perspectives on growing up in Alabama and in life in general. So give that one a shout and give that one a look, and that's over on the CCP Podcasting page on YouTube. If we can get the attraction on that program, then we're bringing it over here to Over the Top. So keep that out there. Keep that in mind. Sauce, thank you for having me on today. I saw the program break last week, and I said, what the hell is this? Click on it, and was very entertained with the handler of Samantha Vox. So you guys keep doing you. And we'll keep doing us, and we'll succeed together, and that's ultimately what matters.
Hey, that's right on. That's right on the money. So if you like what you've heard today, be sure to come back tomorrow. I think we're going to be doing a little bit of EFED news tomorrow, maybe a little Ring Bell Radio. Depends on what day this video actually goes out. So from the Sauce Boss and from Travis, the handler of Chris Page, this has been Breaking Kayfabe. Thanks for coming around, and be excellent to each other.